Hi, I'm Pam Hayes from Hayes Sewing Machine Company of Wilmington, Delaware, and welcome back to our creative videos. Today I'm going to show you how to do a quilt, and it's going to be out of the 3-yard quilts for kids. And the one that I'm going to be doing today is Perfect Pets, and in the picture they have an applique of a cat, but they also give you an applique for a dog, and that's the one I'm going to do today. And on the back cover she'll give you the appliques, or do whatever applique you wish. The fusing agent that I am using today is Fusy Bond Light. It's done by the Lazy Girl ladies, and wonderful stuff. What you're going to do is you're going to place it on top of, and it has paper on one side and the adhesive on the other, and you are going to draw on the paper side. You can see I've already started cutting this particular one. So when you're working with it, you're going to fuse it onto your applique, whatever fabric you want to work with, and we are going to then trim all the way around, and I've already started some of this. And so again, they have a cat in the book as well as the dog in the book, but again, clip art from a computer, print it out, whatever works for you. Or if you're very talented, draw something. I'm tracing. Let's just leave it at that. All right, so once we have
all those kindergarten cut and paste skills are
way
more useful than the trig and the physics.
At least for this. All right, so you are going to have basically 3 blocks. Both of them, okay, this is kind of block A. Block B is going to have your applique. And then, believe it or not, they call that block C.
Oh, wow.
I know, the thing in the middle. All right, so once we have our applique done, to get it started, just kind of tear the fabric, you know, like you're going to tear the material. The material won't tear, but the paper does. So then at this point, you are just going to peel.
Oh, that's good. Rather than trying to take your fingernail and pick around the edge.
You got it. All right, and we got our little doggy.
Lovely.
All right, so we come over to the iron, and I like to warm up the fabric. And I'm going to put my dog down. Now, to get this dog to look somewhat like all of the other 5 I've done, she gives you suggestion in the book that you want to be about a 1/2 inch above, you know, the block. And I kind of did mine so it was kind of standing up. And then, yeah, that's about right. I did mine about 1.5 inches in for the tail. And you'll notice when you iron for an applique, you're keeping it still. If you wanted to use a press cloth, go for it. If you don't have a press cloth in your house, like a linen tea towel, hanky, all of that would work well.
And how long do you usually press it down?
Oh, probably about 10 seconds.
10 seconds, okay.
All right, so there's my dog.
Lovely.
All right. Now, I always like to stitch around my dog. And if in doubt, we are going to put a little bit of stabilizer. So if you have tried applique in the past and you find that it kind of pulls and kind of wrinkles the background material, put a little bit of stabilization underneath. The one that I'm using today is done by the Sulky company. It's called Tear Easy. You can also work with one that's called Totally Stable, and that really works well. I'm using embroidery thread on the top of the machine. So it's a rayon embroidery thread. It's a 40 weight. And I don't know if you can see it because I kind of got the color pretty well matched.
No, we can see it.
But we're going to do little blanket stitch.
Nice.
Now, do yourself a favor. If you have a foot available for your machine that is open, it's easier for you to see. Or if you have one that is clear, that works as well. The one that I'm working with for my 590 is going to be a number 20C foot, and notice how it has a pie shape wedge cut out of it. That will allow the stitching to pass through much easier. And I'm going to be working with the blanket stitch, which is in the quilting section. It's, if you have a Bernine, it's 1309. And I left it as the normal width, normal length, which was about 2.5 by 2.5, roughly. Now, I also set up on my machine where it will hover for me. So I had it lined up.
Can you pause and let me get over there and show them from the beginning how you get into the hover?
Sure. All right, so this is where I would be choosing for my stitch. I go on the 590, which is the machine I'm working on. I go to the house. I go to my settings, which are the 2 circles, and I'm doing sewing. I'm going to the button area, and that's 4 buttons, and believe it or not, that's their depiction of a hand.
Okay.
All right. What we're going to do, you're going to find your hover position for your foot in the needle down position, that little section there, that little button. And we normally have it set on in the store that when the foot is down, the foot's down, which I tend to do for sewing. But if I'm going to be appliquing and I want to pivot, I choose the middle one.
Okay.
And then when I'm all done, I hit the X. Now take a look at this symbol. You'll notice how it's the needle and it's down in the fabric. This hover position will not work unless your needle has in the down position. If you left it up and you're wondering why is it not hovering, it won't. All right.
Match the picture.
Match the pictures, yes.
Thank you.
So now at this point, I started down at the bottom, kind of where his back leg was. And I'll show you what I mean by the hover. So I'm sewing along. See how it comes up ever so slightly, and then I can pivot. And a lot of machines nowadays have that hover position. Utilize it. Now, when you are doing the turning of a corner, make sure you stop, because it's a blanket stitch and we're doing applique, you want to stop on the stitch on the outside. So the blanket stitch is to go along the edge. All right, and then again, you'll notice how it's really easy to pivot with that hover. And I'm only pivoting when the needle is on the outside of that stitch. I chose a blanket stitch because I wanted the applique to be the star. Sometimes people will do a satin stitch. And if you're doing a satin stitch that's kind of on the heavier side, I wouldn't recommend this lightweight stabilizer. I'd recommend like a stiffy, because that will prevent it from tunneling. All right, pivoting around. Now, you'll run across this on the tail. I'm just trying to think what part of the dog that is. You'll notice I am technically on the outside, but look at where it's going to stitch. So see where the needle's down, and if I start to sew, it's going to go really into the background. So I would...
2 seconds to get situated here. Poor camera's going like, we can't be that close. There we go.
All right. So we're technically at the beginning of the stitch, which means that it's going to go to the left. But then I'd have a little bit of like, it's wrong for the tail. So I would encourage you to needle up. And because you're in that hover position, you can scooch it over and line it up again. And it's perfect.
Cool.
All right. So remember on this, every time you take your foot off the foot control, because I set it that way, and we're going to go around. Common questions I get asked about applique. Pam, why is my fabric tunneling? And I'll ask them over the phone, what type of stabilizer are you working with? There's always a pause at the other end of the line. You have no idea what I'm talking about. And that could cause it to...
So always use stabilizer.
Always try to use stabilizer. And with your fusing agent, always try to go for something that says light in the title. Like this one is Fusy Bond Light. A lot of times if you go for something that's really kind of on the heavy side, if you're doing multiple layers, it's not going to work as well. So if I had this dog, then I'm just going to put an eye, then I'm just going to put a ball at his, you know, when you're doing multiple levels, it gets a bit clunky. And that could also be too difficult for your machine to stitch through.
I often find if I'm working with a heavier fusing agent, it'll gum up my needle.
Yep. Alright, and again we're just sewing around. I can do one more stitch there. Now that extra sound that you hear is, remember, is going to be your hover position, wanting to hover. So that's normal.
Don't let it freak you out.
That's normal. Just think of all the work it's doing for you. You can see how it's way easier to turn.
If you have a baby lock, they refer to this as auto pivot.
There you go. Auto pivot. Yeah, most machines have this. If you have something that's going to be computerized, that's a little bit more modern. Some also have a knee lever, which is a arm or a little bar that you can put into the base of the machine that will allow you to basically pivot and raise your foot, but you're more involved. You're actually using your knee to activate that lever.
But whatever you have, you want to use what you got.
Use what you got. Alright, we are almost around. I timed myself with one of the dogs yesterday when I was just doing it. Took me about 5 minutes. So that's a challenge. I want somebody out there to get it down to 30 seconds. Maybe not. But again, having that hover position or that auto pivot, can't beat it when you're doing applique. Alright, another thing I like to use is auto tie off. Some, like baby locks, will have a bar, you know, a button that has a circle. On the Berninas, it has what I affectionately call soft pretzel. Okay? Touch that.
Which is supposedly the depiction of a knot, right?
Yeah, the picture of a knot. So you can see how it's going to stitch in place for me.
Got it.
All right.
So try not to back tack if we don't.
Yes, we don't want to back tack unless we absolutely have to. All right. So, ta-da! And we are all complete. And a lot of times you can see it better from the back side.
Nice.
All right. Now, tear easy. Look how easy it tears. Now, if the thought of tearing your stabilizer away is enough to make you twitch, be aware that they do make stabilizers that wash away. A Fabri-Solvi is a nice option. You use Fabri-Solvi quite a bit if you were working with like lace and things like that. And I'm just getting it started. So you just want to have something that will tear away nicely. You don't want to leave this in.
Because then your quilt will be crunchy.
Your quilt will be crunchy, yes. Maybe that's the look you're going for. You never know.
You know, they make those quilts that have like mylar in them
Yeah,
for babies.
for babies.
Because, yeah,
There you
so it'd
go.
be kind of like that. Maybe not as crunchy as mylar.
All right, so we're trying to get as much as we can. Do not worry about what's underneath the actual stitching, because the stitching is going to anchor that down. So there's certain things I just don't. Sewing's supposed to be fun. And if you're trying to get it out from every single stitch,
It doesn't fall under the quilting is fun category.
no, it does not. All right,
Oh, it's adorable.
there's my little pup.
Sweet.
Now, I'm going to change my thread. I'm going to go back to my regular, I'm going to sew thread. So I'm working with the Orville. Never had more trouble putting a cap on in my life. There you go. And we're going to go, and we're also going to go back to our basic straight stitch. You also want to change your presser foot back. Because of that pie shape wedge that we have underneath on the 20 foot, it is going to make your seams pucker.
Because it's not giving it enough support.
Not giving it enough support.
Okay.
All right. So we have done this. Now take a look at the pattern, the quilt again. Take a look. You have a plain, in this case darker block. I have, remember, my C, that's what they call the C part. And then you have your applique, and then you keep going. And you notice they alternate. So black, applique, black, applique, you get the idea. So we're doing the bottom row. And this is what we're going to do. It's going to be like so. Now, what's nice is I am just going to take this quote-unquote C block,
Otherwise known as sashing.
otherwise known as sashing, but don't be confused because they actually call the long guys sashing.
Oh, okay, good enough.
So, yes, I would call it sashing too, but they call it, just so everybody, the C block. All right, and we're going to line this up, and we're going to sew all the way down. Now, I'm going to go back and turn off that hover position. I'm going to have it so it's going back down again because, like I said, the hover position is great for certain things that are really annoying for others. All right, I'm going to line this guy up. So again, I'm putting my block that I've put my applique on. All right. Now, on this one, I have pressed, I'm going to press both seams, these two seams towards the dark.
Okay.
There's going to be a sashing in there, so you're not going to have to line
up
anything
points.
up. Yep. So we're going to do that next. We're going to go over to the iron, and we're going to press. So I'm pressing towards the dark. And if I would pay attention to what I just said, press towards the dark. Just because the
Do what I say, not as I do.
I know, right? It's just because the words have such a light background that we just don't want to risk anything showing. All right, so we have that. I'm going to unpin and you'll notice that we have our sashing that we're going to go across here. Okay. Now, they have given exact measurements for the sashing. I just cut it across the width of the
Fabric.
Nothing's quite as bad as,
Being 3/4 of an inch short.
yeah.
Doesn't fall under the quilting is fun category.
Does not fall into the quilting is fun. So again, we're just going to sew across. Alrighty. Alright, we're going to go and we're just going to give this a quick press. And again, I'm pressing down into the sashing.
She's pressing towards the purple.
Pressing towards the purple. Okay. So, ta-da! There's the sashing that I just did.
Nice.
Now, when I go to place my block on, okay.
Let me scan out here for a second, so they can see a bit more. Got it.
Okay, so I'm joining this seam. Now, what I do is, so I have a chance of it looking even, is I get it lined up. Okay, so see how I'm getting it lined up there?
Hang on for 2 seconds.
Just to make sure it's in the general direction, general area. I put a pin down. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay,
So
so
you
see,
fold it back,
Yep.
you line it up on the
at least it's
C block on the other block.
Yep. And there you go. There's not really a place to do a tack per se. Because
Because
it's
they
not,
put that sashing in between, which
Yes.
is very nice because it
Yes.
makes it much faster.
Yep. But at least if you get it in the general area, it fools the mind like, oh, it's all the same. So even if you're a little off, I doubt if anybody will see. Alright, so we're going to again do this final row. This is the majority of the quilt block. Alrighty. Give it a press. Again, we're going to try to press it towards the sashing. That way it's not getting involved in the other. Now, what I'm going to do is, because, again, I didn't do it exactly to match, I'm going to take and I'm going to rotary cut those so they're even. All right. Now, just so you know, this guy has 3 borders. So it's going to have purple, okay, for this one. Then it's going to have the words, in my case, and then it's going to have purple again. And then that is going to be the binding.
Oh, how cute.
I think it's going to be really nice. All right. So, hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.